Hi there. In this video, I'm going to show you how simply you can build an expenses app using the Common Data Service. So just to give you a reminder of what the Common Data Service is, effectively it is a database but on steroids that Microsoft have provided as part of the Power Platform. It is a huge amount of things, but all I want to do is perhaps demonstrate that that it's easy to create fields of different types, one of which is going to be an image field, and it's also easy to build your apps on top of this. So as far as this the solution, if you like, is concerned, what we're going to do on this occasion is we are going to create an expense entity, and that's going to have things like the amount, the date, the approval status, some kind of pretty straightforward things. And we're also going to do a separate category entity, and that will have things like whether it's legal expenses, motor vehicle expenses, travel, subsistence, etc., etc. So, and the reason I'm doing this video is I'm prepping for another session, and I want to make sure that if we run out of time, then people can get to this. So here we go. We're about to go into over into PowerApps. So here we are in PowerApps, and the first thing that I would do on this occasion, now the trick is that you have to have an environment, and if you don't have an environment, you can actually spin up a personal environment. So just be a little bit careful if that's something that occurs to you. So if you don't have an environment, the issue that you're going to have actually is that you can create trial environments, but the way in which to do that is you have to go to admin.powerplatform.microsoft.com, and then you'll need so this means you kind of got to have some kind of level of access to be able to do that. And then what you'll do is go to environments, and you can click new, and you'll be able to create your own environment here now. And in this case, now if you do a trial environment, that's going to last for 30 days, and I can call it test. In fact, we may just do that in this trial environment, because I do actually want this to kind of fall apart after a while. So I'm going to call this one Power Platform PP4F. So that's our Power Platform for finance, and I'm going to put it in as the I'm going to put that in as a United Kingdom. Then I'm going to click. It's asking me, do I want to create a database for this environment? And on this occasion, I will create a database. Is it actually really important for me to create a database here? So I'm going to click yes. I do not want to include sample apps and data, and just be a little bit careful with this. This will become relevant later on when we start to let's call it PP4F, and what that'll do is actually give us our own URL, and it doesn't look like it's been taken yet, so I think it'll be pp4f.crm11.dynamics.com, but we shall see. So now I'm going to click, I don't want to deploy the sample apps and data, and I'm going to click save on that now. So it's going to create this database, but the only reason it can do that is you won't be able to do that if you don't have any capacity. So capacity is where you kind of go onto this this resources piece and go onto capacity here, and if you don't, even if you've got a trial license, you won't be able to get to capacity. But I do have capacity. I'm just having a look at mine that I've got here. So I've got 6.72 out of 11.5, but that trial doesn't actually eat into my capacity at all. So I'm just going to move back to PowerApps, and we'll see how this thing has actually got on. I'm going to hit the refresh on this, and I'm kind of fingers crossed that this will have actually started to have done something at this point in time. So what I need to do is to click on this dspin prod thing here, and you can see pp4f has been created. Now the database may not have been created at this point, and I'll know by clicking on the entities, and now it's actually said no database found. So it's not a huge surprise to me, because the databases take a little bit of time to actually create. So I think that what I may do for the purposes of this video is jump into it should have created that, but I'm going to jump into an environment that I know does have a database already. Now this is a sandbox environment. It'll feel the same. It won't be that much different, and you can then look at entities. And what I'm going to do now is I'm now going to create some entities. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to click new entity, and in fact what you should really do is you should create it inside a solution, because then that way you can move your creations from one location to another. I actually think it's kind of safer for me to create it inside a solution. In fact, there's one there. I think I was working on this already, so maybe I'll just have a quick look in there to see which one this is, because I may have actually been, yeah, you can see I've actually been doing this already. So what I'm going to do is I would quite like to go into an environment that doesn't have any of this going on in it. So what I may do is I may actually just delete this out, and then we'll kind of go from scratch on that. So I am gonna, yeah, let's just see about that. So okay. In fact, I have actually just been a very, very tiny amount of patience more, and I've been able to create the environment. So I'd now actually, this is how I would really do it. I'd go to solutions, I'd create a new solution, display name, pp4f, pp4f vid. And the publisher, I would actually usually create a publisher for this, because otherwise you end up with strange field names. So I'm actually just going to create a publisher for that. If this takes a while, I will just bomb out of it, because it can take a little bit of time to go in. So here we are, we've got the publisher here, display name pp4f vid underscore pub. I don't know if it'll allow this anyway, but prefix is pp4f. I'm just deliberately doing that, and we'll see what it says. It might get upset with this. No, it's actually happy. And what that does mean is if I actually pick this publisher, it means that all of my entities that I create will be prefixed in the way that I want them to be prefixed. So I've now created this solution. Inside the solution, I'm now going to create some entities. So the first entity that I'm going to create is new entity, and the first one is going to be my categories entity, because it's really super simple. So display name equals new entity is cat expense underscore cat. I don't know if it doesn't have cat category. I'm just making it really obvious that it's the expense category entity here. Display name, so I'm going to call it category is my primary field, but to that I'm going to add some more fields. So if I go add field here, I can add in account, so we could have an account number. I seem to have gone with capitals here, I'll just carry on in that way. Now, what is the account number? Well, it could be text, so I'm going to stick with that. And are there any other things? You could have sort of groupings of accounts, I suppose. So profit and loss and balance sheet. So I'm just going to do add field, and I'm just going to do that is PLBS, something like that. So what would I do? I'd probably do I'd probably do something that was related to finance in terms of whether it's income, expense, that sort of idea. Let's call it expense super category. So now we've created this super category as well. That's another text field, but all I'm going to do now is I'm going to save that entity, and then what you have to do is things like views and forms, and so I'm going to go and make a form, but it's really super simple to make a form, but it's only so that I can actually throw a bit of data into this and sort of demonstrate the straightforward nature of this. So it's doing a little bit of the sign in things here, and what it will then do is it will say, well, my form normally looks like this, and to that I'm going to add account and my expense super category as well. Just bear in mind we're not actually looking at an app here. This is what a model driven app would look like, and so I will have to press save, and then I'm going to go back. And then I'm going to go onto the views and then chuck a few in there. So I'll go views, and I will go onto these active expense categories, and I'm going to throw some fields in here like that, and then save, and I'm going to go back. And then I'm just going to demonstrate that we can actually start entering a little bit of data in there. And well, we could actually create a model driven app in actual fact at this point. So and I might do that actually, because it is really straightforward. So I am going to create a model driven app at this point in my life. So I'm going to go onto the solutions here. I'm going to go new app, model driven app, and into that model driven app I'm going to actually put this entity. So pp4f, and I'm going to call it underscore model driven model app expenses. That'll do. Right, so I'm going to click done on that, and then you kind of it's really strange looking, this bit here. Don't worry too much about it. You just click on sitemap, and then you basically add in the entity that we just created. So we just go onto there, select type, go onto entity. We have to select the entity that we created, but it will give us a really long list. So we've written expense somewhere there, and we're going to do expense category. And now that's going to do that. It'll be happy. We can do save and close. We have to be a little bit careful at this point. I'm going to click publish on that. You will get some funny messages pop up at this before too long. So it seems reasonably happy. I'm going to go save and close on that. And then what you do is you do save here. Then you validate it. It'll say, oh, you know, you got one warning, but don't worry. It's because all views and so on are will be seen, but you don't need to worry too much about that. Then you go publish, and then you can actually play it. And what that means is you can actually start entering some data into your entity. So now we've actually created a model driven app, a real model driven app. And I can actually see here there's an issue with it already because it only says category, and it doesn't say the different other elements. But we'll just click on this and we'll go new. So we're going to actually add. In fact, it's definitely not worked at all. So what I'm going to do is you have to go back to the entity itself. And what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to go onto this expense category. I just want to check that the view and the form are correct. So if I go into the views and active expense category, this is what the view should look like. Brilliant. So I'm going to go back. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go publish all customizations, which is under at the solution level. I'm going to go publish all customizations, and this should flush all of the changes that I've been making through. And then when I go back onto the app, I can hit the refresh on the app, and I'll actually be able to see that the view will change and the form will also change. So I'm going to go onto this expense category here, and I'm just going to go click back onto this. Now, normally it's not the first time you do it. You have to do a bigger refresh than that before you get your newly updated view. But I think that's quite cool. So you can see there's the super category here, and if I go onto this new thing here, you can also see that I have got a category, and let's just say this is subsistence. And let's say this is account 1001, and the super category is expenses. Now that sounds a bit weird, but in fact, what would the super category be? I'm more thinking of profit and loss and so on. So let's just call it administrative expenses. There's lots of different kinds. Now I'm going to click save and close on that, and then I'm just going to add another category in here. Click new category. What's the category going to be? I'm going to call it travel, and then account, I'll put 1002. Expense super category. I think it's general expenses we were going with. You could actually have another entity. I'm just going to click save and close on this thing, and I'm actually going to look at the view. It's called administrative expenses. So administrative expenses. Now, as I say, you could actually have another linked entity that would mean that you would just be picking from this. So we have created a model-driven app at this point in time, but the objective was to actually do an expenses app. So what we're going to do is we're going to go back to the solution. In fact, it's been a little bit strange. I think it's because it's it's just my fault there. So we are 17 minutes in, and we have created an entity and a proper model-driven app. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to create the actual expense entity. So I will do new entity, and then I'm going to do expenses. So expenses, and I'm going to call it PP4F because I kind of want to know that I can just delete it at some point. I'll know that if it's this one here. So display name, primary field, I'll call it summary, and do create there. So that's going to create my it'll wake up in a moment. Then I click another field, and then the display name is gross, so that's going to be the amount, but this time I'm going to start to do something different. So we're going to do a number field, and it's going to be we should really do a currency field, so I'm going to put that in. Is it required? Actually, it is required, and I'm not going to bother with anything fancy on description or anything like that, but they do come in useful from time to time. So we've got the gross in there. Then we also need the expense date, and that is actually going to be a date only field. Click done on that, and now go add field. What else would we need to know? Well, actually, interestingly enough, we would I can click save entity on this. In fact, I've got to do one more thing. I need to do expense image. So that's fine that I've done that. So do add field, and I'll do expense image. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to create an image. Where is the image entity? The image field type. I literally can't see it for looking. There we are, and I'll make it a primary image, but that's fine. So this is really, really cool, because you can actually put a real image inside here, and it really works in your apps. So there's your expense image, gross, date. We haven't actually linked to the category yet. I am actually going to, for the purposes of this video, I'm going to actually do it slightly later on. But what we can do now is we could start building an app. So what I can do now is it's a little bit tricky actually this, because I've got to go outside my solution in order to build my app. So if I go to new app, Canvas app and I go tablet form factor, it's going to spin up an app, but it's not going to go on off and look at the data for me. And I want to cheat in this app. Although, is it actually going to do that? No, I want it to start with my starting from data. And the reason for that is because it will create for me a 3-screen app, whereas this one is blank. So I'm going to bomb out of this. I'll click done. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go onto apps there. I'm going to click new app. That was, and this one here is the model driven app, bear in mind. So I'm going to go Canvas app, and then I'm going to do Canvas app from data. So let's wait for this thing to wake up, and I'm going to do it as, I'm actually going to do it as a phone layout, believe it or not, but we will kind of correct that. So I'm going to go click create, and then what it will do is will ask me for the entity that I'm interested in, and I'm going to do expenses, PP4 expenses, this the entity that we just created. Click connect on that. Over it goes and creates the, it's actually going to build us a 3-screen app. Now, it is obviously a phone form factor, but in reality, I don't want a phone form factor app. I could use it, can actually use it right away, in fact. Now, it will do some strange things to begin with, so let's see what it actually does. If I hit the plus on there, that's not enough information. So what I now have, it's actually a fully functional app. But in terms of the data that I want to actually collect, what I actually want to do is I want to add in more fields. So I definitely want the date, I definitely want an image, and I definitely want the gross. And I'm going to click add on that. Now I don't want the created on because it's always going to be, it's not relevant in this case. So I'm going to save myself a bit of space and just click it like this. And I'll just leave the order. Shall I do the order? I'll just move it up a little bit. Is it moved up? I don't think it did. Did it move up? I don't think it did move up. There you are. You can move it around, as you can see. So that's a slightly nicer format for us. And then what I will do is I'll hit the play button. I'll do test. I'll click a date and put a different date in. Gross 34.5, and then expense image. I'm just going to grab an image from my computer, of which there are many. So what is this? I'll put a chessboard on there. Click open, and in comes the chessboard, and then click OK on that. So we have an app that actually works, and I can add some more bits in, such as, just move that up there, just do a copy and paste of this control, and instead of it being this item.summary, I'm going to do this item.date. It was expense date, isn't it? And so it's just brought in the expense date, which actually for once is actually a nice format. In fact, we should probably put the amount as well. Now what I haven't done is I haven't put a status for the expense, but I'm not going to worry too much about that. So this is gross. Gross. Okay, 34.5. And you can do lots of things with formatting and so on, but there isn't time for that. So I can click another one in because I kind of enjoyed that. So click that, test 2, click another date, pop another date in, and then go OK, gross 66, expense image, and I can now go and grab something else. What would that be? I'll put PowerApps for kids in there because that's me advertising the fact I work with PowerApps for kids. So I'm going to click the OK on that, and now we've got two images in there. Awesome, and that will work. So I'm just going to hit this sort of directional thing and in fact, one thing I want to do, is a couple of things actually. So for the next 2 or 3 minutes, I'm actually going to switch the orientation of the app around, and then I'm going to make it so that when we actually click on the image, it will take us off to a screen where we end up with a fresh image. So what I'm going to do with that is I'm going to do file, app, and I'm going to do expenses, expenses canvas. Obviously I wouldn't normally call it this, but just for the purposes of this I am doing it this way. So I've written as expenses canvas. I'm going to click save, and then what I do need to do is I need to move it into the right inside my solution. It's just a thing that you should do. So what I'm going to do is go back to this thing here, and then it says import canvas apps, not what I want to do, and I need to go onto my solution, and I need to go onto the solution, and I need to add existing app, canvas app, and then what you'll probably find is it doesn't pop up straight away. Sometimes it takes a little bit of time for your app to appear in here, so sometimes you need to sort of wiggle with it a little bit to in order for it to realize it's actually got an app. So if you could look on there, it has actually been created. You can see it down there. So over to solutions, go on to this thing, this solution. Oops, here I've been a little bit quick. Go on to add existing app, canvas app. I'm kind of hoping this time round it's in there, and if I click add, it's now going to go in. Okay, well that's interesting. That's interesting. Unlinked environments. Okay. The environment is not linked. Okay, never mind. I'm not gonna worry too much about that. It won't really. It's not gonna be fundamental to this actually working anyway. So what I'm gonna do now is I am going to flip the app onto its side, and the way in which I do that is I go to the app, and I'm going to open. In fact, it probably was upset because it could have been upset because I was in the app. So in order to flip it on its side, I go to File, and then I go to Settings, and then I go to Screen Size and Orientation, and I'm going to make it a landscape app, and I'm going to click Apply. And so that's going to flip it around. And so when I go onto here, it's now a bit bigger. We've got a little bit more space to work with. And what I will do is I'm going to click on this item, and then on select. Oh, tell you what, I'm going to create a new screen, insert new screen, and we'll go blank. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put in some media in there, image, and I will, and on select, I'm going to click select back. So when we select it, it'll go back. Now there's a reason why I created this screen. This screen one, I'll just rename it as to be screen image. Good. And what I'm going to do is on this browse screen one, I'm going to say on select, and I'm going to create a variable. So set gv image to be this item dot image. It'll be expense image, and what that's going to do is it's going to put inside its memory this image here. And then what I'm going to do is, as well as that, by hitting the semicolon, I'm going to navigate. To screen image. Oops, screen image. Okay, and that means I can get to the screen. So what I'll do is, so now I can get there, and once I am there, I can then say, well, what is the image that I'm on? Well, it's actually the variable that I just created. So it's gv image, and there we are, our wonderful image. Now I have made one mistake, and the reason why this looks like such a poor image is that when I set it, the variable, I actually said this item.expense image, but if I go this item.expense image dot full, I actually get a full version of that. So if I go and hit it now, I get a full version, so you can see a much better version of the image. So I think at this point in time, given that we've got a bit of time, I'm going to put in something like a really detailed image, and just let's have a little look at what the difference is. So I'm going to go back to this screen here, hit the plus. In fact, I'm just going to do it on this. No, I'll do it on this chessboard here. We saw it was a bit different, and I'm going to hit the edit on there, go down to the image, and I'm going to see if I might have some reasonable images in, and let me just see what this I don't know what some of these images are. Let me just see what this one is. It might be a reasonably detailed one. So I'll go on to there. Yeah, that's quite a detailed image. I'm going to click the OK on that. And what you'll notice is it will actually condense the image quite considerably. So you can see it's actually, it's gone quite small. But when we look at it, it's a reasonably big image that's come through. But if we actually go onto it and then we make the on select, change it back to expense image, we should find ourselves with a much poorer image than we had before. So I'll click on that again. You can actually see it's a really poor image. So that is a really good demonstration of the fact that it's created a really cool thumbnail for you. So I'm going to hit the undo on that because I want that to be full. Okay, good. So now we've created an app and it genuinely works. So if we actually go back to the data set and so on, we can actually look at our solution, and we can actually go into here and we can actually go and look at our expenses entity, and we can also go and have a look at the data that is in that entity. So I'll wait for that to sort of pop up. And if I go on to data, we'll actually see our 2 lines have been in there. And if it does appear like this, what you can do is you just do custom fields, then you'll get to see the fields that you actually created. And notice this bit here it is a GUID. That's everything is GUIDs in this world. One thing we haven't done is we haven't done any relationships. We don't know what type of expense this is. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go on to relationships and I'm going to add relationships. So we are going to have a many to one relationship with our categories. So there's only ever one category, but that category can be used many times. So many to one relationship, go to there, and I'm going to, I think I called it expense category and I did it in capitals, which was nice and easy to find. And then I can click done, and then I'll go save entity. Now that looks kind of meaningless at the moment, but it's super important. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make it nice and easy and go onto the forms, because forms are brilliant. And on this main form, I'm going to bring in this new field. It exists as a field. So there's my expense category. And if I just literally click on it, it's going to hoik it straight in. Now we did create some expense categories, so that's gonna okay, I actually haven't created this form at all, so I'm gonna do expense date, expense gross, expense image. I'm not quite sure that expense image is going to work yet. That's fine. And I am definitely going to put expense category, so that means I can go save and I can go publish, and we now have an expenses entity. However, the expenses entity is not in our, it is not in our model driven app. So we're going to put that into the model driven app, and we're going to do that by going back, and we are going to go onto a model driven app, and we're going to do that by going onto here, and we will click on the model driven app. We need to go onto this strange sitemap thing, so it's going to get us into here. I'm going to click on this sitemap. It's going to take me off to another screen, and then we're going to add in the entity. Let me click that again. Good. So if I go click, I'm going to click on that, add, I need to add a sub area essentially, and the sub area is going to be my entity, and click entity required, hit the drop down, and I'm going to type in expense, PP4 expenses, and then go save and close, and I'll click save here, and you can see it's actually come in. So I'll go validate, and it'll give me 2 warnings this time, and then I can click publish, and then I can click play. So that means I've now created an updated version of this. And so if I actually go onto the model driven app, you can actually see, I'm kind of hoping this will work, you'll actually see that we've now got 2 things in here, and what I can do is if I hit the PP4X expenses, and if I hit a plus, I notice the view on that isn't very good for PP4F expenses. Oh, do you know what? We haven't actually done have we done a form for this? Doesn't seem too happy with this. Never mind. The aim of this, oh, I'm being stupid. I have to click new. So what I'm going to do is I then go new, summary, ABC 1, 2, 3, expense date, and pop a date in there, gross, and then 56, expense image, and I'm going to do the expense category, and this is the daddy. There, we're going to go, I'm going to put it in as travel, and I'm going to go save and close. Now, this is interesting actually, because I don't normally, if I'm going to use images, I don't normally do it this way. So if I can now, if I want to, I can actually upload an image, and I could do a different sort of image. This is, I've got loads of images. Let's do my rock, paper, scissors one. Let's do this rock, paper, scissors thing, and I'll click open on that. I've never actually done it. That was quite nice, that. I like it. Okay, good. I'll do save and close on that. So now what I'm going to do is jump back to the Canvas app, and I am going to update that with the category piece. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit the play button, hit a plus. Now what you'll notice here is that we don't actually have that category. What I'm actually going to do on here, because we've got a lot of space here, is I'm going to make it columns. I'll make it 2 columns. So this will sort of shift things around a bit. I actually think we can get, well, we can, the date's going to go a bit funny. So what I'll do is I'm now going to add another field in. I'm going to click edit field. What I'll probably need to do though is go to view data sources, because we changed our entity. So I'll need to do a refresh of the entity so that we can see the new field that we created. It's refreshed it now. So what I can do is I need to make sure I've clicked on it correctly, like this, click edit field, add a field. And if I type in cat, I'm kind of hoping it's in there, and then click add on that. And then we should see that sort of whiz in, but it might come in down the bottom, by the way, which it has done. But you can, sorting these things around isn't a huge problem. So what I'm going to do is I am now going to actually try and add in an expense. Just do some numbers, add a date in, let's do it for later on, gross, 78, add a picture. I just love adding pictures, and let's do that, the paper left one, and then we go to find items, and we'll make that travel, and I'll click the OK on there and hit the yeah, you can see the images are coming in. Sometimes it's a bit funny on the images. I don't quite know what sort of what makes it decide to bring them in or not bring them in, but that's working there. So at this point in my life, I am happy. I've actually created a model-driven app and a model-driven app and a Canvas app, which is quite cool, and I did it in 40 minutes. But the thing I'm going to do next is just demonstrate to you that you can actually connect Power BI to what we're doing. So I'm going to fire up Power BI desktop. So whilst that's whirring around, if we go to the admin center and I go to environments, and I'm just literally searching. I have to get a URL from one of the environments, the one we're actually in, hopefully. So it's the PP4F one. I'm going to click on PP4F, and it's going to give me the URL, and I'm going to copy that, and I will use that in Power BI when we get there. So Power BI is doing its usual thing where it takes ages to load up. So here we go. So PP4F, I quite like that actually. It's much nicer than so copy link address, and I am going to go to Power BI. Power BI is still firing up. So what we're going to do on Power BI is when Power BI does finally pop up, we will go and get our data source. The data source will be it's a common data service data source, and then what we will do is we will connect to that. So we will wait whilst that happens. So here we are, I'm in Power BI now, and I am going to go for it. So I'm going to go to get data. It doesn't always appear here. In fact, obviously doesn't appear here. You get most of them here. And to get to CDS, when this next screen pops up, you actually have to type in common, because it's common data service. CDS doesn't actually get you anything at all. So if I type in common, then we get to common data service. I need to click that, and then we're going to use the URL that we just got a few moments ago. So and we'll wait for Power BI. So server URL, click on that. We'll probably have a little bit of authentication whirring around going on, so you may need to do that. You want signed in, sign in. There we are, the usual, and then click on that. In I go, and then I just need to click connect. And then what it will do is it'll offer me all of the tables that exist within this environment, but I only want 2. I just want the expense categories one, which is why actually I prefixed them with the word expense. Now I think if I type in expense here, yeah, expense, it doesn't like that, you see. What you have to do is you have to click on the entities, and then you can use the search bar at the top. Just a nice little, I'm going to call it a pro tip. Is it a pro tip? Not really. So there we are. These are the 2 tables we need, because what you'll find is when you, I'm just going to load it all up. There will be loads of junk in here. In fact, there is one more table. It's called system user. That is a table with all of the people that have been interacting with the app. So we won't use it in this occasion, but it is kind of relevant. But it's kind of hard to link it up. So what's going to happen is we're going to get it's a tiny amount of data that's going to come in, and we're going to try to join them up so that we actually have a Power BI report of sorts. It'll be an absolutely terrible Power BI report, because most of the work is actually getting the data and then joining it together, and then once you've done that, life gets a lot easier. If I'm lucky, which I don't think I will be, it will do the joins for me. But I think that's very, very unlikely, because it would need to have the same. It needs to have the same field type and the same field name for it actually to work, and I don't think that's going to do that. Oh, it's done it. Great, wonderful. So let's have a look at the relationships between those data sets. It's probably none at all. No, it's not done any at all. Brilliant. And there's a lot of, yes, you can see there's a lot of chuff in there, really. We do. So I'm kind of a little bit curious, because there's not there's a few fields in there. You can see our fields that we created, which is great. And really what we need to do is we need to just create a join between these 2, because if you actually look on the tables here, we're actually going to go onto the expense, the main expenses table, and we'll see our 4 expenses, loads of junk in here, and what you will see, I'm not interested in the image, this is the one I want, expense no, I don't need that at all. What I need is the it's the category, so that's what I'm looking for at the moment, and I cannot see it for looking, because that's what we need in order to be able to make the join between the 2 fields. I'm actually going to just have a quick look at the expense category field, and what we're looking for is a field that'll enable us to go between the 2 of them there. So that is the join field that we need. I can't see it straight away. I'm actually going to type in ID just to see if it's actually going to get me a little bit closer, and that hasn't got me closer at all. In fact, there it is. Boom. PP4F expense category. So what I can do there is I can just go onto this and expense category. Where are you? There you are. And there's the category ID, and if I join those 2 up, it might say a 1-to-1 because we've hardly used them, but in reality it's actually a 1-to-many. So you would need to be a little bit careful with that. So watch it. It's definitely it's a 1-to-many. Yay. Okay. It's probably clever enough to actually work that out. And then the other thing that you would do is you would make a join between the creator. So created by. So what you actually find on this is that the created by is a GUID. It's me always. And you would then you'd then go onto here and you would actually be able to drag in the ID of the user. This one's just full of things. So I remember having to go and find this recently. I think it's system user ID. How sad is that? System user ID, and it's the created by, and then you just whop it in there, and then those 2 things kind of go together. So this is normal Power BI report building going on here. So those have gone in there, and now I've got a model that I can then use in order to go and bring in the correct sort of fields and so on. So I am now going to hit the drop down, and what do I want? Well, I kind of want the first of all I want the expenses, so which is let's go with the gross, because that's nice and easy. It's probably going to, I just want to bring in a table. I don't care about any of that sort of thing there. I'll just bring it as a table like that, and I'll do the summary as well. We didn't bring in the detail at all, so it's kind of trying to catch up with me at the moment. Yeah, test 1, 2, 3, test 4. But this time what we need to do is we need to bring in elements from the category. So we can bring in the category. Good. And we can bring in the, oh no, I just brought it in and took it out. And the account. And you can actually see that it's actually all working nicely. In fact, I'm going to bring in that super category as well because it's fun. So you can actually see admin expenses there. So that's it. That's all I'm going to do. So in 50 minutes, let's remind ourselves of what we've done. We have created an app that would work on your phone, that has the capacity to, so here's the app. An app that would work on your phone that has the capacity to record expenses with images associated with them. And we can actually navigate between elements of those expenses, and we can create more expenses from this. So I don't know what I'm doing jumping around here. That should go back. Excellent. We have also created a model driven app. So that's this thing here. So if I hit the refresh on this, we should end up with another, I think we've got 4 expenses now. So I'm expecting a 4th one to appear in here as a result of this. And I want to have a play around on this now. So there's my active PB4 blah 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 expenses, and I can actually go into the expenses and I can actually see, well, we saw that I could see it. So did this have an image? I'm sure all these had images because I'm mad for images. These things all have images, but let's not worry too much about how this the model-driven app behaves with regards to images, because it's all there. In fact, you can actually see the image here. In fact, this is something I've noticed before, is that if you go back and then you go forward again, you'll probably find the image will actually appear. So it's a bit peculiar like that. There you are. So the image is definitely there. So we created a model-driven app. We created relationships between an expenses item and the categories, so that people just picked the relevant category. And we could have created more entities. We could have actually created an entity on top of the expense category, which would have only had, I don't know, revenue and profit and loss or something like that, profit and loss and balance sheet, whatever. That would have worked. So there's lots of different ways in which you can enhance what we've done already. But I am really, really chuffed that in 53 minutes we have done as much as we have done. This kind of probably represents as much as I know, as simply as I know it, about this platform. And this common data service is something that you could use in a real business. This common data service has got years and years of being road tested as being a platform fit for use by organizations, across the world with millions of transactions. So we've done something trivial, but it can be used for much more serious uses as well. I hope you liked this interview. It's not even an interview, is it? That's because I've just been at it so long. I hope you like this this video. Please hit the like, and hit the subscribe if you like this sort of thing, and also hit the bell if you want to hear about more content as it comes through. Tell your friends about this. Yes, they'll be like my family, not as interested as you might think. But anyway, thank you. If you've made it through to the end, well done. And I will see you back here again sometime soon.